Hello and welcome to the law of cosines. So the last couple lessons you have done has dealt with the law of sines, and it's based on what is given in the acute or obtuse triangle, which determine why you use the law of sines to find the missing angle and the missing side. Well, in this lesson this week, we're going to learn about the law of cosines. Now, the law of cosines is going to be a lot different than the law of sines, because in the law of sines, all you did was a proportion. Well, in this one, we've got a complex problem that kind of basically takes the Pythagorean theorem and kind of mixes the trig with it. There is a proof to it, which is kind of complex, but just trust me, we're going to use this formula to help us find missing sides and angles. This week, actually, we're going to be looking for a missing side. And there are actually three versions. If you were to open up a textbook, you would see this formula written three different ways. One way would be b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine b. And then you'd have a third one in which this a or b would become a c. So c squared would equal to that. Why there's three different ways, I guess because there's three different parts on the triangle, but this will work on any of the following cases I'm going to show you. Now, you always know it's the law of cosines because it uses something that we kind of learned in geometry called side angle side. In other words, you're going to have a side given, an angle given, and another side given, and we're going to try to find the third missing side. So let's say you were going to Lowe's or whatever, and you were wanting to find, if you knew an angle and a side, how long would this third side be? By using the law of cosines, we can very easily find out what that missing length of wood you would need to get by putting in this formula. Now, the only problem that I'm going to see is that since you do not have your scientific calculators with you, you're going to have to use your cell phones. It's going to be a little bit more complex. So my advice to you is, while I'm working the two examples for you, that you would write it down step by step the way I'm going to show you. And of course, if you need to go back into the video, then you can go to a certain point, pause it, and do exactly like I say, so you can get these questions correct. Alright, so let's look at our first example. Now, our first example is based on, here's our SAS, side and angle in a side. Okay, that angle's the included angle because it's connecting the two sides, and we want to find out what that third side length is. Now, on the acute triangle, it's going to come up different than when you do the obtuse triangle. Obtuse, you're going to have to do something slightly different with your calculator. So make sure you take good notes, write this down, and if you do exactly like I say, then you should be okay. Alright, so let's go ahead, take this problem, and let's see what we got. What we're going to do is we've got to decide what is our A's. Our A's is going to be kind of like our X. This is the side we're looking for. So this a squared actually will become x squared. And over here at cosine A, whatever angle is across from that variable x, that is the number that's going to go right here with this a. So x is a squared, and 42 degrees would go where cosine A is. Alright, but we'll get to that in a second because I want to fill out the rest of these. Now, B and C are going to be your other two sides. Generally, if you say, well, which one's B, which one's C, it doesn't matter. I always put the smaller one first and then the larger one second. It's up to you. You'll get the same answer. So we're going to say this is B and this is C. So we would have 12 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 12 times 14 cosine, and we already established that A is going to be your 42 degrees. Now the rest of it is making sure you put it into the calculator correctly. So I'm going to show you my advice, and hopefully you can do exactly like I do and you'll get the right answer. Alright, so let's go ahead and simplify 12 squared and 14 squared. I get 144, and 14 squared is 196. Go ahead and add those two together and you'll get 340. Now let's take care of this over here on the right side. I have 2 times 12 times 14. If you put this in your calculator, you're going to get 336 cosine 42. Now everything's easy so far. Square these two, add them together, multiply these three numbers together. Now if you had your yellow scientific calculators, we could actually do this very quickly, but since we don't have them, we're going to have to do this with our cell phones. And here we go. Make sure you turn your cell phones sideways so you get the scientific look on it. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to put this in your calculator first, and then you're going to put this second, and then you're going to multiply it by this third. But please ignore this minus sign. I'll show you what you're going to do with that in a minute. So here we go. 42 cosine times 336 equals. Alright, so we get 249.6966, so on. What you're going to do now is we're going to put in whatever, well, this is acute, so this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to make this a minus, so we're actually going to make it a negative in this calculator. So when I press this, it becomes that negative 249. So this is like minus whatever we got here. Then, so we'll put that fourth. So we want to put that in our calculator. What kind of number is 340? It's a positive number. So what you want to do is hit plus this number here. So that'll be your fifth thing. So plus 340. And that's equal to 90.3. Now looking at this problem, x does not look like it should be 90.3. But look at the formula. It says a squared, x squared. So what do we do when we have a square? You're correct, you have to take the square root. So you come over here on your calculator and you'll notice this little square root in x. Press that and we get 9.5, and that is the value of x. So if you look at our picture, that does kind of make sense. 12, 14, 42 degrees, 9.5. That side's slightly shorter than the other two. Now this is for an acute triangle, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say acute triangle, but acute angle that's given, and you're looking for the missing side. Now let's look at our second example. It's going to be slightly different in the way you put it in your calculator because we have an obtuse angle that's given with the opposite side. Alright, you'll see what I mean here in just a second. Alright, so let's establish our A, B, and C. So this is our cosine A, there's our angle, and across from that is our x, and we have B and C. So this would be x squared equals to 8 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 8 times 13 cosine 131. So far so good. Alright, let's simplify. 8 squared is 64. 13 squared is 169. When you add 64 and 169, you get 233. Now let's multiply 2 times 8 times 13. 2 times 8 is 16, times 13 is 208. Cosine 131. Alright, that's fine, but now look what's going to happen when you put it in your calculator. So everybody get your calculator out. Let's turn it sideways. Let's see what we have. So remember, we're going to do this first, second, third, fourth. So we're going right to left. So I'm going to put in 131, 131, cosine, times 208 equals. Now, here's where the difference comes in. On an obtuse triangle, you will get a negative answer after you multiply the cosine with that the B and C. So, on this, you're still going to do step number 4, which is press the negative button, which is actually going to change it to a positive, because 2 negatives make a positive. So you still press this button. Now, after you do that, what type of number is 233? Yes, of course, it's a positive. So I'm going to add 233 equals. All right, get a large number, 369. That makes no sense. Oh, but on this problem, we had to take the square root. So remember, take the square root at the very end. So I take the square root of that 369, and you get 19.2. Alright, let's look at our picture. Yeah, that does kind of make sense. This is the largest angle on our triangle, which is obtuse, and the side opposite should be the longest side, which is 19.2. Alright, like I said, if you have any kind of trouble, if you're struggling through it, please go back through the video, watch exactly like how I did it. You're going to get a couple of cutes and you're going to get a couple of obtuse. And if you have any other questions, please message me and we'll see if we can figure out a way to help you through it.